Welcome back to this explainer. All right, picture this for a second. You're just standing there in your kitchen, and suddenly, a completely innocent comment about Sunday dinner spirals into a full-blown shouting match between your wife and your mother. You are trapped right in the middle, feeling stressed out, totally helpless, and honestly, completely unsure of what you're even supposed to say. Look, if you have ever felt that awful, heavy tension, you're absolutely not alone. But here's the real secret. Underneath all that shouting and complaining, your mother and your wife are actually suffering from the exact same emotion. It's deep insecurity. So today, I'm going to show you a remarkably simple, private exercise that will transform you from a helpless bystander into an absolute empathy expert. Okay, Section 1. The real conflict revealed. Let's look a little deeper.
Let's dive right into this. When you're standing there watching them argue over, say, whose stuffing recipe is better, or who actually gets to host Thanksgiving this year, it is so incredibly easy to get caught up in those surface-level details. You might try to step in and play the peacekeeper to solve the practical problem. But ask yourself, why are they really fighting? Because you've probably noticed that the second the shouting starts, logic just completely goes out the window. You could present all the rational arguments in the world. You could literally pull up the shared family calendar, and it just doesn't matter. It leaves you scratching your head, wondering what on earth is driving this chaotic conflict. Well, the truth is, the fight is never actually about the recipe, and it's definitely not about the schedule. It is about something much, much deeper.
Because underneath all that anger, both your wife and your mother are suffering from the exact same hidden emotion, deep insecurity. And here's the tricky part about that. When people feel profoundly insecure, it rarely looks like sadness or vulnerability on the outside, right? Instead, it comes out as frustration, defensiveness, and sometimes just intense anger. This deep insecurity is the fuel for the fire. If you try to fight that fire with cold, hard logic, you aren't putting it out. You're literally just fanning the flames. To actually extinguish it, we have to understand the specific type of insecurity we're actually dealing with.
Moving on to Section 2, the mother's hidden fear. Let's talk about these shifting dynamics.
To really grasp this, you kind of have to put yourself in her shoes for a moment. Think about it. She spent decades raising you, managing the family, essentially being the primary woman in your life. But now, the dynamic has completely shifted. So when she's complaining or criticizing or seemingly picking a fight right out of thin air, her unspoken fear is actually terrifying. She's thinking, am I being thrown out? Now, she would probably never say this out loud to you because it feels entirely too vulnerable. But when she argues with your wife over how the house is run or how the kids are being raised, she is desperately trying to prove that she still has a place. She needs to know she still matters and that she isn't just being discarded.
All right, Section 3, the wife's hidden fear. This is all about seeking priority.
Just as your mother is struggling with that massive shift in dynamics, your wife is navigating her own intense emotional landscape when it comes to her relationship with you and your extended family. Even though she might be shouting about something completely different, maybe she's complaining about boundaries or feeling micromanaged, your wife's deepest fear is surprisingly simple. She's asking, am I not important? She wants to know without a single shadow of a doubt that she is your top priority. If she feels like you're constantly deferring to your mom or taking her side or just failing to defend the boundaries of your marriage, well, her insecurity flares right up. She fears she isn't truly the main woman in your life.
And this right here brilliantly illustrates how both women, despite coming at it from completely different angles, are truly two sides of the exact same emotional coin. Your mother fears being thrown out and replaced, while your wife fears not being important or prioritized. Both women are just desperately fighting for reassurance. They're fighting for their rightful place in your heart and your life. That shouting match you're witnessing in the kitchen, it's really just a tragic collision of these two unexpressed insecurities. And once you truly internalize this concept, absolutely everything changes about how you handle the situation.
Which brings us to Section 4, the empty chair technique. Let's get into a practical exercise.
So now that we know the secret cause of the fights, we need a way to hardwire this empathy into your brain so it becomes your natural default response. Intellectual understanding is great, but let's be real. In the heat of the moment, it is tough to remember psychological theories. That's where the empty chair technique comes in. It's a private role-play exercise where you speak to an empty chair to internalize and truly feel the underlying fears of another person. It's a highly effective tool that lets you step out of that frustrated middleman role and actually experience what they are feeling. You aren't just thinking about their fear, you're actively engaging with it.
The process itself is remarkably straightforward. Step 1, privately set up an empty chair in a quiet room where you know you won't be disturbed. Step 2, visualize your wife or your mother sitting right there in front of you, like really picture them. And step 3, speak their deepest fears out loud, as if you are them. So you sit alone, look at the empty chair, and literally vocalize their insecurities. You might say, I'm so scared you don't need me anymore, or I'm terrified that I'm not your priority. I know it sounds wild, but speaking these words out loud builds an intense, immediate empathy that simply reading about it never, ever could.
And honestly, here is the absolute best part of this entire thing. This powerful mental shift only takes about 5 minutes of your time. Literally, just 5 minutes. But it pays dividends forever. You don't need to do this for hours or go away on some weekend meditation retreat. Stepping into their shoes and speaking their pain out loud for just a few minutes will fundamentally rewire how you perceive the very next conflict. It is the ultimate shortcut to genuine empathy, and it shifts you from feeling totally annoyed to deeply understanding almost instantly.
Finally, Section 5. Become an empathy expert. It's time to transform those arguments. By taking those few minutes to role-play, you completely transform how you approach the next argument. First off, you stop relying on failing logic. You know the fight isn't about the turkey, so you finally stop arguing about the turkey. Second, because of the empty chair exercise, you truly feel their hidden insecurities. This allows you to approach conflicts with deep empathy and fundamentally change the dynamic. You are no longer just a frustrated referee blowing a whistle. You become an empathy expert. When your mom complains, you know to speak directly to her heart and reassure her of her irreplaceable value. And when your wife gets defensive, you reassure her that she is your absolute priority.
Which brings us to our final question for this explainer. Will you pull up a chair? The next time you feel caught in the crossfire, ask yourself if you're ready to try this simple 5-minute technique. Are you ready to stop fighting the surface-level arguments and actually start healing the deep insecurities underneath? Pulling up that empty chair might feel a little silly at first, I get it, but it is the secret key to finally bringing lasting peace and understanding to your family. Thank you so much for joining me today. Now go find a quiet room, pull up a chair, and give it a try tonight.